Welcome to Books, Kids, and Creations, a part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I'm your host, Tracy Bloom, and I feature people who inspire and uplift future generations with their work. And today I have Helen and Thomas Docherty here to talk about their brand new book, Baboon Finds Her Tune. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. It's a real privilege to be here with you today.
Yes,
and
thank
very
you for having
exciting.
us.
Yeah, and it's not very often that I have a husband and wife duo on. So how did this come to be? Because I'm sure you both had individual jobs and were working. Did one come up with the idea first, or how did this come to be?
Yeah, so it was my idea. I mean, obviously I was looking for something for Tom to illustrate because we worked together on a number of books. So I don't know whether anyone's familiar with the Snatchabook or the Storybook Night or Pirate Nell's Tales to Tell. So these are all books where I've written the text, I've written the words, and Tom has illustrated them. So I was kind of, thinking for another story for Tom to illustrate. But we happen to live by Swansea Bay, so we have this beautiful view of the bay from our window. And round about this time of year, actually in September, we have this beautiful harvest moon. Oh. And the moon rises over the bay, and it's just amazing. It's like an orange globe that hangs just over the sea, and then as it rises up, it casts its light all over the bay, and it's just mesmerizing. We always love to see the harvest moon. And so for some reason, I think I was walking the kids to school one morning, and the phrase orange moon, blue baboon came to me. I don't know, it's a little bit random, but I love to rhyme. So those words just kind of clicked together, but I didn't know what to do with them. So I just had this phrase in my head and I scribbled it down because I always do when something comes to me, and you just never know if it's going to turn into a story or not, but it hung around. And then one day I got this idea about a little baboon who perhaps feels a bit out of tune with the other creatures. And in fact, she literally is out of tune because she finds a bassoon and she starts to play it. But unfortunately, she's out of tune and they all end up running away. And that's quite sad for her. And I thought, well, what could happen to her then? So she goes on this magical nighttime journey. She finds a hot air balloon and she ends up landing on a distant dune. And there she plays her bassoon again. She plays her tune again, but this time she finds somebody who really appreciates it. And I'm not going to give the whole story away, but yeah, that was kind of where it all came from. And then when the story was commissioned, that's when Tom started doing the illustrations. I
was immediately inspired by just the sort of the words and the fact that there are very few words in the text, so that left so much space for me to interpret them and come up with my own visual narrative and my own visual story. So there's just so many things for children to look for, to spot, to follow, and the chance to do a nighttime story just full of light and brightness as well was really good fun.
Yeah, and
illustrations are phenomenal. I mean, they're so magical, every element. And when you were talking about the harvest moon, I went, oh, so that's where
that's the
orange moon came from, because it is striking throughout the story, the moon in every page.
Yeah, so the moon is a character in the story. The moon is reacting to everything that's happening, and if you notice the expression in the moon's face, it changes on every page.
And I had so much fun coming up with the incidental characters that aren't mentioned in the text. If you can follow this heart-shaped balloon through the whole story, and the ducks. There's the cats. There's the
ducks.
The crabs at the end. It was just a gift to be able to have that sort of freedom to create my own sort of story around Helen's words.
And the band, of course.
What medium did you create this in? Do you hand sketch? What is your process like for this?
Yeah, I painted all the different characters and the backgrounds by hand using stencils and acrylic ink. Wow. And then I scanned them separately. So I'd often paint bits of the background separately and the characters separately. I'd scan them into the computer, and then I would sort of almost collage them together in the computer. And you could also manipulate some of the colors, make things brighter, make things glow. You can move things around. So it was quite an organic process. But yes, I think that sort of hand painted quality, I think, that comes through quite strongly on the illustrations, as well as the sort of vibrant color that you get from working with the computer as well.
Yeah. So Helen, how long did it take you to write this? Because like he said, there's sparse words.
Yeah.
It's a powerful story. You have a beautiful gift of telling the story in such a concise manner, but I know it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. I mean, I think that what people think often is that, oh, anyone can write a picture book text, but actually it's quite hard to write a complete story in so few words. But I'd never written a story in quite as few words before. Most of my picture book texts have a much longer word count than this. So this was sort of a challenge I set myself, actually, Tracy. It was like, can I write this in monorhyme? So literally in every line, there are just 3 syllables, and every line has to rhyme with moon or baboon. So it was a challenge because obviously I had very few words that I could choose from, a very limited pool of words. But that's where the fun lies in the challenge. And because I just love rhyming. And so once I had the story, it was kind of easy then to find the right words and obviously to, to shape the narrative. And that's the thing, that every story has to have the same bones of a narrative, even if however many words there are, or however you're telling the story, you've got to have that structure underpinning it. So actually it didn't take me as long to write as many of my other texts. So Pirate Nell, for example, took a lot longer because it is more complex a narrative, and it has more twists and turns, and obviously much more rhyming. So it didn't take as long, but I think, it was just, more than anything, it was getting the right idea and then working on it and finding the rhymes.
I really enjoyed almost as a surreal, if you write in monorhyme, as Helen said, there's only certain words that you can actually use. And I think that sort of slight odd sort of combination of words makes it really fascinating, real challenge to illustrate as well. So that was really good fun, working with so little and trying to create so much from it.
So I mean, I always had this idea that there would be these animals watching and listening and then running off, and that was kind of in my illustrator's notes. So we knew there were going to be people listening to her play out of tune, but then we had to decide who these characters were, how exactly they were going to react, what they were going to be doing. And I think we had a discussion one evening, didn't we? You came up with the idea of setting it in the city, and I think that was a stroke of genius, really, because rather than have all the action take place somewhere out in the country, I think putting it in the city, in a park in the city, that's something that I think children can relate to, because a lot of children have had that experience of going to a city park, maybe in the evening.
I also thought that, all sorts of interesting things happen in parks, and you do get people displaying things. Or we used to live in Bristol, and one of the big parks in Bristol did have a hot air balloon show. So I mean,
they really did.
They really did. So these things, all sorts of things happen in public spaces. So that made it easier to sort of fit the sort of visual narrative around Helen's words.
Right. And we went to a wonderful park in Germany once, in Hamburg, where they had this incredible light and water and music display in the evening. So they had, the fountains were turning all different colors and music was playing, and it was just magical. And I think we wanted to recreate some of that atmosphere, didn't we? Or you did anyway in the illustration.
Well, I still remember that the magic of, especially being a young child, when you're up late and maybe a special event and it's got dark, and maybe usually you'd be in bed but you're outside, and there's nice stuff happening around you. It's quite
anything
exciting.
Feels possible. It feels like that cusp between day and night. It's like a sort of magic time, isn't it? It's like a moment where perhaps, I don't know, reality shifts a little, and you can do something extraordinary in that moment. And that's kind of the space where this story takes place, really.
I love it. And I like that there's some very strong lessons in this book too. I mean, for any kid or adult who's felt different, or maybe out of tune, or like they're not in the same category as other people, and they just feel different. I mean, I love the messaging in here of how he doesn't stop playing. He continues playing, and
she does.
And it's right, and a great story.
I think that's a really important message. I think there's something slightly autobiographical about it, because I used to feel a little bit like that as a child sometimes, you know. I used to feel maybe a bit different from some of my classmates, because I always had my head in a book, and I love writing as well, and I used to make these little books, so I was a little bit different from a lot of them. But I think it's that thing about finding what you love and doing it anyway, even if other people don't appreciate it straight away. And not being afraid to be different, and just trusting that in the end you will find your people, the people who really appreciate what you're doing, as happens to Blue Baboon in the story. So yeah, and also I think what I think was really important at the end is that we have the other characters come and join at the end, because we wanted it to be a story not just about that sort of self-acceptance, but about everyone accepting difference as well, and accepting that people can be different, and that's fine, you know.
Right. Because if we were all the same, what a boring world.
I know, exactly. If we all played in perfect tune with each other, it would be really boring. Yeah.
And so are you doing any sort of like book tours or school visits and such with this book? I can imagine this would be a big
We haven't, you know, we have got some visits lined up online, so we're really looking forward to those. And you know, we did a lot of visits with the Snatchabook and the storybook night, so yeah, we're looking forward to doing
as well.
Looking forward to doing lots of events.
And we'll see what happens with it. Obviously it's early days because it's only just come out, but we're really hoping that we'll have lots of chances to share Blue Baboon.
It's got some fantastic reviews already, and people are, you know, talking about it, and people are loving the pictures, so you know, just let's just hope that people continue to enjoy it, and it gets in the hands of lots of kids, and they can enjoy it together with their families.
And this is a Sourcebooks published.
It is, that's right. Yeah, so we're really excited. I mean, it's brilliant for us because obviously we live in Wales in the UK, so you know, it's just great for us that we have an American publisher as well.
Well, you know, we love connecting with our audiences like overseas, and you know, to have people enjoying our book as far away as the United States is amazing. It's a great feeling.
So, for example, we Tom and I last week we were teaching on a course up in North Wales, a course on writing and illustrating children's picture books. So exactly what we do. And there was actually one lady from Canada who came all the way over to do the course. And that's because, so she used to be a teacher. She's retired now, but while she was working in a school in Canada, she picked up on the Snatchabook, and she worked with a musician to help to turn it into a children's opera. And the children in her school actually sang the story of the Snatchabook and performed it in opera. I know, and that was years ago, but we've kept in touch. And she actually came all the way over to go on our course, which was just so lovely. And you know, it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had our books published in the United States and Canada, so, and indeed all over the world. So it's just, we love it. We absolutely love knowing that there's people that we may never meet, but some of them maybe we will, but that they're enjoying our book in all different corners of the world. It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting though how your words can be inspired and inspiring others and turned into musicals and plays. How exciting!
It's a wonderful feeling to create something, you know, something artistic, and you send it out there in the world, and you
don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and you know, people are enjoying it or interpreting it, or it means certain things to people that you know you would never have expected, and yeah, it's a great feeling.
We absolutely love it when people take our work and do something new with it. So adapt it for stage in different ways, or you know, turn it into music. We had a lady in Spain took one of my other books, You Can Never Run Out of Love, and she wrote the most beautiful song in Spanish. So she used the Spanish version and she turned it into music, and it actually makes me cry every time I watch it. It's so beautiful. So yeah, we love it when that happens.
And you used to be a teacher too, didn't you? Okay.
Yeah, I used to teach Spanish and French for years actually.
And this book has been translated in, or many of your books have been translated into 28
languages, I think, altogether we've got.
Yes, the books are quite successful around the world in that sense, and it's lovely. Sometimes, you know, we get sent the different editions, and with all the beautiful text and writing and the different fonts, and
it's very exciting feeling. And I mean, the European languages, a lot of them we do understand, so we can read them and work out how the story's been because they have to adapt the story slightly to make it rhyme in their own language, which is, it's an amazing art form and skill in itself, the translation process.
Yeah.
But then we have editions in Japanese, Korean, Chinese,
So
Hebrew, Thai, and we can't read those languages, but it's just so exciting to see them anyway, and all the beautiful scripts, and yeah,
it's so incredible. And so do you have new books that you're working on?
Yeah, we have a
I
lot.
would imagine.
You know, Helen's just finished writing our next book that we're going to do together.
Yeah.
And it's called Superwolf. And so just last week I started doing the first sketches of the characters.
Very exciting.
It's about a little wolf that wants to be a superhero.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. That's how we come together, and we're really, really excited for that one, and I can't wait to see what Tom does with it.
Yeah. And so when that one's finished, are you thinking that it'll be like a next year type of book?
So it's not really us that decides when the books come out.
Oh, okay.
So the publishers decide. So I'm not sure. I think that was coming out in 2024.
I think it must be 24.
Yeah, because they like to, so when they have the finished book, when they have all the illustrations completed, they like to have some time to try to sell the foreign editions, the co-editions, so to see which of their partners want to buy the rights so that they can publish it. And then of course that takes time because they need to translate it. So it's quite a long process.
Right.
We have to be very patient.
Isn't that funny?
In the meantime, we have both got projects that we've been working on, the last year or so, which will be coming out sooner. So
I've got a book with David Roberts, the illustrator. So Ada Twist Scientist. Yeah. So I've got a book that he's illustrated, and it's coming out next year.
Oh.
But it's been quite a long wait because I think he's just such a busy man.
Right.
I've had to wait quite a while, but it's very exciting. So so watch this space.
I always ask people who come on the show what advice they have for future generations who would like to either follow in your footsteps and do what you do, or just in general. And I can start with Helen.
Well, I would just say keep practicing whatever it is that you love. I spent most of my childhood writing. I used to make these little books. I used to write the story and then illustrate them and make them into little books that I would keep. And I would say that all that work, because even though I was a child, it was still, I think often when kids do things, it can seem like they're just playing, but actually they're learning as they're doing those things. And I think the more you do something, the better you get at it. That's for sure. So whatever you love doing, whatever your passion is, whether it's writing or drawing, or it might be music, or it might be a sport, or whatever it is, just keep practicing as much as you can, because that's sort of the only way to get anywhere, is just put the time in and enjoy it. Just try and really enjoy it. Have fun with it. Be playful.
I think Helen said it all, really. I mean, I also similarly, I did a lot of drawing when I was younger, and maybe just don't give up on the things that you love, because I remember being discouraged.
Yeah,
from
do get discouraged.
When I get to like secondary school, which is like, is it high school? That there was less interest in people drawing, and you got less sort of praise for it because you were meant to be concentrating on more academic things. But I just never stopped, and I did all the other work as well at the same time. But I didn't give up on the thing that I really enjoyed, despite the fact that other people didn't take it quite so seriously. So
I think that's very true. I don't think people take art that seriously at school necessarily, and I think so for people who do love art. So like Tom, you're dyslexic, aren't you? And you found
I found reading
a
bit of a struggle, and his spelling was awful, and there was no spell checks in those days. So drawing was always really important to me, and I kept going with it, and
definitely,
and it got me through to a job in the end. So I'm really grateful to that.
And read as well. That's the other thing I was going to say, is that's what I did so much when I was young, and obviously still do now. And I think the more you read, the more you're just absorbing, you're soaking up stories, different kinds of stories, and those stories stay with you. And sometimes you'll just draw on them, and little elements of them will come out in your own work. because all stories are they're retellings of other stories in a way. So I think the more you read, the better. And, you know, use your library. If you're lucky enough to have a public library, go to your library, borrow all the books that you like the look of, and yeah, just enjoy reading.
I would say keep looking at pictures as well, because
of course.
if you want to work visually, you know, that's really important. I spend a lot of time going to galleries, and even if, you know, work that's not related, you don't have to, if you want to be an illustrator, you don't have to look at other illustrators' work to be inspired. There's, you know, visual material everywhere.
And you keep a sketchbook, don't you? So when you go out, you like to
draw from life, and you know, a lot of that feeds straight into my work.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that both of you have your own separate creative processes, but it feels like it just all comes together and is so cohesive. And the work that you've produced is so incredible. And I'm so excited to have had you on the show today. And I wish you so much great luck with this book, all of your others. So when you have your new book, please let us know. We would love to have you.
We will.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tracy. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, we do love working together, don't we? I think we're very lucky.
We're very lucky to have each other to work with.
Well, thank you and have a wonderful day.